3, 2, 1.
Here we go! Happy Freight Friday. What a wonderful week it has been. I think it's been beautiful across the country. I want you to put in the comments what you are drinking this Friday, even if it's just a nice glass of iced tea with some lemon, or you haven't drank all day because you're so busy, you're making lots of money. I hope it's either one of those. I'm not drinking today, you guys. I am sort of milking a hangover from yesterday. Anybody who has hangover remedies, you can definitely put that in there. And no, I'm not going to drink to get rid of that to get rid of the hangover. I won't do it. It's making me feel sick. So coffee it is, you guys, coffee. So today we have a Arnold Palmer's baby. Hi, J-Ro. Hi, Matt Fink. We got Tim Pool in the house. We got Eric French is joining us. He says Monster tea and lemonade. That sounds good. I love it. Rolling Rock here is Tim Pool. We got Jeffrey Vanderpool, who's drinking hard. And you know, you guys, we are a work hard, play hard crowd. I think that is my favorite part about this industry. I'm very excited for this episode. I have been waiting a long time for this episode. You all have been asking for an LTL expert. So I brought you not only an expert, but I brought you the OG of LTL. I brought you Darren Hawkins. Darren, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Welcome to Mad Games Live.
So glad to be here, Cassandra, and everyone that's joining. I can't imagine this many people would be interested in what I have to say, but I am tickled to death to participate.
Y'all are going to love Darren because everybody who watches this show, they're very, what did Andrew Teal said one time, that we're all like grizzled veterans of the industry. And they like people who are not going to sit in the ivory tower and tell us about the industry. They actually know, and they actually understand that. And I'm excited for you guys to hear about Darren's background. But first, Darren, you said that I caught you on a great day. You're relaxed. You got done with your board meeting, your Q2 results. So how was the board meeting? Like, did anybody fall asleep?
No. When you're
you don't have to name names. It's okay.
Yeah. When you're at the board level at a $5 billion company, I've been in several board meetings, not only ours, but others, and I haven't caught anyone sleeping yet. I have seen people get embarrassed. I've seen people lose their tempers, and I've seen people really wish they had just thought it and not said it. But you just can't reel some of those things back. So,
you know what? We've all been there. I mean, for me, it's on a daily basis, but we've all been in that situation. But I never imagined someone would lose their temper at a board meeting. To me, I've always been dry with presentations, and we're all like, okay, that's nice. And so that sounds exciting that people might lose their temper. Sounds like it'd be more fun.
Well, trucking is exciting at all levels, whether you're in a terminal
True.
operation, whether you're a pickup and delivery driver and just getting to see the sites and visit all those customers on a daily basis, or whether you're in a board meeting or in the corporate headquarters. Trucking is always an adventure, and there's no boring days in trucking.
That's so true. And you would know that better than probably most of our crowd. Andrew Teal says, grizzled vets with intellectual curiosity. I love that, Andrew. I absolutely love that. Tim Drake says, coffee, water day. Yes, I'm drinking so much water. Mick is here. Hi, Mick. Ease of delivery, Erin Gregory. She says she's so happy because her kids are at school. I know that a lot of people are like, go to school, be gone with you. Darren, tell everybody what we were talking about, how you started right out of college in our industry, because people are going to love hearing this story.
Yeah, so actually I started in the industry during college for a wonderful carrier, and hopefully some of those employees are on here today. I'm from Tennessee and went to Memphis State, which is now the University of Memphis, and I see we've got a few from my alma mater on here as well. But while I was in Memphis, I started work at an LTL carrier called Averitt Express. That was in their earlier days. Fabulous company, great culture. They taught me all dock operations, yard operations. I worked in the shop. They taught me how to drive, let me lead some relays. And in the middle of all that, I managed to cram 4 years of college into 5. And when I finally graduated on a Saturday, I went to work for Yellow the following Monday as a frontline supervisor. So I'm proud to say that I've done all the jobs, the majority of the jobs in LTL trucking, and I've enjoyed every step of the way. So it's been a terrific adventure for me, and I love talking about it. Cassandra, you've picked my favorite subject, truckers and trucking and the adventures we all have.
How was it when you went right into being a supervisor and people were like, who's this young pup? Tell me what to do.
Yeah, my favorite story about that is I was really, really skinny coming out of college. I'm out of weight, 120 pounds soaking wet, and being over 6 foot tall. They had a lot of names for me on the dock, but at Yellow, my first ever nickname was Blade, and I really liked it because I thought it was strong and tough, and they would be like, well, why do they call you Blade? And I would say, well, if you mess with me, I'll cut you. But the real reason they called me Blade is they said when they looked down it was a really long dock in a large distribution center, and they looked down the dock and they said I looked like a blade of grass standing down there.
Not as cool.
I was so skinny. Wonderful operation at Yellow in those days, and still to this day. We had great people. LTL is a close-knit family. You'll find probably many of our competitors on here today, but it's such a tight, consolidated industry. We all know each other very well. I know all the other CEOs very well. Many of us have worked together, and if I'm not working with you now, there's probably a chance we will work together again in the future. That's just the way LTL works. And that's what makes it such a good part of the North American supply chain experience.
Okay. So I have a couple, you're going to be like, Cassandra, what's the deal? But I have a couple grievances to air here about the LTL industry. All right. Because I love truckload. It's the exact opposite of LTL in almost in every way possible. But it's good and bad. But I'll tell you, I wrote down, because somebody had a question, and it was a really good one, and it really stirred this up for me too, what I hate about LTL. But maybe you can address it since you're the OG of LTL. So it seems like LTL carriers utilize accessorial charges to pump their revenue. They are also the cause of a lot of shippers' dissatisfaction and rate disputes. Why can't you simply consider the characteristics of a shipper's freight and then build it into the rate?
I've got a great answer for you on that one, and I'm just the right CEO to talk to about grievances because I run a unionized company, so I'm very familiar with the grievance process, and you don't scare me with that, Cassandra, at all. So let's just take Yellow, for instance. I share the same frustration as you and many of our customers with this particular point. It's one of the most frequent questions I get when I go to conferences and speak at other events where we have a large population of shippers. And I promise you, this is a shipper-driven opportunity. The LTL carriers, we follow where the shippers lead us to go. Certainly as an industry, the class system that we do pricing with is complicated for us. It's complicated for our customers. It's confusing. We have to invest tremendously in technology to balance all that. So what we did at Yellow, on the front of our website, we have a quoting tool that requires, it doesn't require you to put class in. We say no class, no problem with us, because you can put in your pieces, weight, origin, destination, zip code, and then dimensions of the shipment, and you can get a true rate through that. We would love to see rating engines like that for the entire industry. I think most of our competitors would as well. But driving that, and the LTL industry is so competitive, and you might say, well, it's not right now. We're having trouble getting you guys to even come pick up our freight, and everyone's running at capacity. There's seasons like that, and we're in one of those seasons now. But typically, all the shippers watching today and the 200,000 that we do business with, they can switch carriers very easily. You know, the mega customers, they line up their TMS systems, and then they optimize the carriers, and they're typically doing business with the majority of the industry. But those small to medium-sized customers that we care tremendously about, they've got the ability to switch carriers on a daily basis if they choose. And right now, Yellow's not going to be the carrier to lead that. We've put it on the front of our website so that our customers can take advantage of it, get accustomed to it, see how it works. Many customers have fear that when they go away from the class system, many of the things they've negotiated, what they've accomplished over the years, and their transportation budgets would be lost when it's just an actual price for exactly what's moving. But the encouraging words I would give to everyone today, and that I tell all, is the LTL industry is pretty much fully deployed on dimensioners. So we know exactly what's moving through our networks. We know the true pounds per cubic foot of all the shipments, regardless of what the customer's putting on the bill of lading or other pieces. So that knowledge is powerful. It's not just for us. It can be used for all of our customers. And the customers that aren't as complex in their shipping operations as some of the large ones, Yellow and majority of our competitors, we can tell you exactly what your PCF is and help you plan around that because of the dimensioner technology that has just been awesome over the last 3 or 4 years. That has been tremendous for the industry, tremendous for pricing, and also, I believe, what will eventually lead us to a much less complex rate structure in LTL. Sorry for the long answer, but that's one of the most popular discussions that we get into.
It is, and it's frustrating, I'm sure, for many shippers, but even as a lawyer, and we have a lot of great questions, y'all. I see your questions. I'm totally going to ask them in just a minute because I see really good ones coming in. But I want to go back to this accessorial thing only because this is what I tell a lot of my clients that are running an LTL that they're not used to it. And from a risk perspective, I'm always like, well, truckload is a high amount of risk for a customer. Like the entire truckload, you have all your freight on it. There's liability, so much liability with it. But LTL, what I always tell them is you've got to watch the back end. You've got to watch the accounting, the reways, the classification was wrong, the blah, blah, blah was wrong. And I wonder sometimes if that's on the shipper side too, where they don't know their freight all that well. And it results in such a accounting mess. But that's definitely like the downfall, I think, of LTL. It's cool you have that thing on your website. I think that's probably very helpful. But do you think it cuts down on the reways, the accessorials, you classified this wrong, and all the shit that happens on the back end that accounting hates?
Yeah. So Cassandra, first out the gate, I didn't realize you were a practicing attorney when I agreed to do this. So we're going to end the call.
Shoot.
No, that's
by the way, I try not to tell anybody because I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, that's a good secret. There's lots of jokes about that. So bottom line, nothing is more frustrating for a customer or a carrier than inaccurate invoices. That is incredibly frustrating. And because of that, we work hard on the accuracy of that piece, but also when you get a shipment into a network, and we've all got the dimensioners now. So when the dimensioner trues up, and in our case, where your average length of haul is over 1,200 miles, and we're known as a transcontinental carrier, so that length of haul can be 3,500 miles. When you take a shipment that's classed and taking up 2 foot by 2 foot of space, and it actually takes up 10 by 12 foot of space, that is an incredible loss for the carrier. So that gets trued up. You mentioned reways. Reways are still present, but a lot of these are actual cube changes, and a cube change on a 3,000 mile length of haul can really cause pain for a customer. The carrier can't move that at a lower class rate because we would lose money, and we wouldn't be able to care for our networks appropriately. But bottom line, it can be a big shock to a shipper's budget. That's why I promote the accuracy up front. And I tell all of our commercial division, our account executives, they're the first link for our customers, and they've got to be knowledgeable, and they've got to head these things off ahead of time. So when you go in, you've got to do a thorough inspection of the customer's freight. do some measurements, provide some actual documentation around what this looks like so that we can get that out of the way up front and not create that pain on the back end. The fastest way to lose a customer, to burn a relationship, and is having incorrect invoicing, or even if it's correct invoicing, that it's a shock or a surprise to the customer. No one appreciates that when something's 10 times what they quoted it to be. And then that's the last thing we want to see as a carrier.
Yeah. Okay, the next question that I also had on my list as well, but Matt Fink was the first to bring it up. I saw somebody else brought it up as well, which is thoughts on the, and I have worked with this, but I always get frustrated when I have to say it, NMFC. It's like a, I don't know, I can't remember what the word is for it, but there's certain words I can't say, and that's one of them, NMFC. So thoughts on moving away from this class system, moving into a density approach? I know this came up many times, even before you came on, people were asking this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and it's what I addressed at the beginning of the call. So that's the density-based pricing. I don't think you would find any carrier that's against that. We would all like to participate in it. The quoting tool on the front of our website is just that. It is a density-based pricing approach. Everything's up front. You know exactly what your price is between that OD pair. It's not going to get re-rated as long as you put the dimensions in correctly. So I'm a big fan, but I do think that'll be shipper driven, and it'll be some of the larger shippers. You know, we still do not have common bill of ladings across all shippers in the LTL industry. We're getting there, but that's been ongoing for over a decade, and we're not there. So the density-based pricing, we all like to talk about it. 5 years ago, people said, hey, in a couple of years, we'll be there. We're not there. You see that we're in the most incredible LTL market that anyone's ever seen, and none of the carriers are driving that because we don't want to aggravate customers, and we're not going to be the one to upset the apple cart. We're going to make it available, but customers will drive that. And when you see very large customers, you take the top 10 LTL shippers in the United States, when they decide it's important and they want to do it, then everyone else will benefit from that.
Yeah. However, you LTL carriers have, now you're a representative of all LTL carriers apparently, but you guys have way more negotiation power than in the truckload industry. And I think that's the part that surprises me when you compare and contrast the truckload industry to the LTL industry. It's like you got more organization on the LTL side. Truckload is like you're like this when you're quoting something, and LTL you can have managed trans agreements. It's more predictable. I'm sure shippers like the more predictability of it. How has this market been for you? Because on the truckload side, it's capacity is tough. It's been tough for a while. How is it that same as on the LTL side?
I like to say it's a good time to be in LTL, and it's a great time to be at Yellow. This is an ideal time, especially for us. We're bringing all of our brands together under one umbrella, the Yellow brand. It will emerge as a super regional carrier just a matter of months from now. It's something we've been wanting to do for a long time, but merging and integrating networks is big task, and it takes a while to do it. But fortunately, we're closer to the end of it than we were the beginning. So we're in a good spot from there. Your comparison, truckload and LTL, truckload is, you drop a pebble in the truckload pond and it creates a tidal wave in the LTL sector. We're just such a small piece of that. But I would argue with you on the negotiation leverage side. I negotiate with truckload carriers all the time for a very large purchase transportation spend we have. And they've got quite a bit of leverage right now, period. We're all trying to move that in the right direction and keep our customers' freight getting to where it needs to be. But none of us have the capacity that our customers are demanding right now. And we're trying to work through that and do it in a respectful way. But it's incredibly challenging when you've got the ports that are upside down, you've got the railroads that are just overwhelmed, and then you've got the truckload and the LTL sectors that are running close to capacity. It is truly adventure trucking these days for everyone involved in the industry.
We have loads of questions coming in. Let me just check and make sure I'm not blowing our time. But Chandler asked one. I love Chandler. He's one of my good friends. He's over in Texas. With all the venture capital money floating around, why isn't anyone opened a new LTL trucking company? And they can challenge the incumbents. Oh my God, Chandler, I've always wondered the same thing.
I love this question. So in the past, up until 5 years ago, everybody would say, why would anybody want to be an LTL? It's like, I would just rather go and, run around outside and let a tiger chase me than be an LTL. So bottom line is, great question. Why wouldn't you just start an LTL carrier? If you've seen the recent Raymond James report on LTL networks, if you have not read that, I highly recommend it. I'm not representative of Raymond James in any way, but it's one of the best network report outs I've ever seen in my 30 years in the industry. So if you hadn't read that, read the Raymond James report on LTL networks. It's got us in there and all of our competitors. And it really gives you an inside view into why the barriers to entry to LTL are so high.
Mm-hmm.
Why that there's only 10 of us carriers that control 90% of the LTL market, and you get in the top 5 and we have the lion's share of it. You just can't replicate our networks and our physical plant footprint. When you take Yellow's, for instance, it's been built over the last century. Where our real estate is cannot be replicated. No other trucking companies are coming near it. We did that 70, 80, 90 years ago, and we've been able to maintain and preserve that. So bottom line, it would be very difficult to bring a new LTL carrier onto the scene. But now we're seeing so much fun and interesting things happen with Knight Swift doing the AAA piece. I love how that worked out. I thought it made great sense. Very respectful of Reed Dove and his family and how they built that carrier and taken great care of their employees. We saw T-Force, the emergence of the prior UPS freight situation. I love what Elaine and his team are doing there. I think they're on the right track, and it's healthy for the industry, the customers, and others as we see a lot of interest around LTL. But these LTL carriers just don't come up with availability very often, and it's such high barriers to entry. I think there'll be more activity there, but I couldn't predict where it would be. And I see one aggressive viewer wants to know what I think about the Yellow stock price. So
I saw that too. I was like,
since now I know. Yeah, since now I know I've got Cassandra and legal help on the phone. We'll all stay away from the stock price today, as the SEC would not appreciate that.
So when I worked for Echo, I guess when I worked for Global Trends too, I was introduced to LTL, but more so with Echo. Everything I learned was from when I worked at Echo. They started out as an LTL brokerage. And the one thing that was surprising to me, because Doug Wagner's like you, he's an OG of the LTL world. He worked for an asset.
He worked for Yellow.
Yeah.
Doug's one of us. Yeah. So you can name any of those 3PLs, and we can connect it back to Yellow, just like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So no problem.
I love it. And oh, by the way, you totally bleed Yellow. Like you are all. I love it. So it was interesting, and I think people need to understand this as well because people miss it. Is how hard it is even for a broker to work directly with a major LTL carrier and have proper tariffs and negotiation, and most importantly, good pricing. I know that a lot of brokers, and I was so confused about this because I was new to the LTL world in a way when I worked at Echo, but why brokers were going to Echo for LTL shipments, for Echo to work with carriers directly. And it was because Echo had the good pricing. And then interestingly as well, I've noticed that other brokers, they can't go directly to LTL carriers. They go through other brokers. Like I don't know if this is still true, but I saw on Uber's terms and conditions on their online, it said that they use Blue Grace for all their LTL shipments. So I think that's so interesting for everyone to know is that, and maybe you have an idea about why this is, but it's even brokers are going to other brokers because it's still high barrier to entry for brokers to work with LTL carriers at a good price. At a good price, by the way.
So great subject. And by the way, Bobby Harris, Blue Grace, also former Yellow employee. So I could just throw those out all day long.
This is fun for this game.
Yellow
What about
roadway.
Bob from C.H. Robinson? He really likes you.
Yep, yellow roadway. We're just iconic parts of the industry, and we've had our ups and downs. But so many people have been connected to these companies, and I've got so much pride in that. So on the broker subject, what do you want as a carrier? What do you really want from a broker? Well, you want that broker to act as your sales force, and you want that broker to act as your customer service agent, and you want that broker to position your services correctly so that they're not aggravating customers in your name. Cassandra, you wouldn't want me doing a podcast without you on it, and me either not representing you correctly in what you're trying to accomplish with your Mad Gain show or your legal firm. I don't want any brokers misrepresenting Yellow. You're right. I bleed Yellow. I'm proud of this company, and I want to make sure the brokers understand what we do well, what we don't do well, where you should use us, and where you shouldn't. Those brokers that do that well, they have good pricing with Yellow. They have good long-term relationships with Yellow. And because of that, they've become what we call strategic partners. I want more strategic partners in the broker space, but the brokers have to do the work that they're selling to the customers as well. If they want to sell Yellow services and take a cut of it and then put all the customer service, all of the work involved in managing and maintaining that customer on me, then I'm better off having the customer direct. I would love to outsource that to brokers, and we do. As you know, over $1 billion a year in brokerage business across our companies, and we've got some brokers that are in our top 10 customer base overall. It's over 30% of my total business. I'm a big fan of brokers, but the ones who really put the work in, do it right, let us educate appropriately, and bring the customer feedback to us appropriately. It's a wonderful thing, and their technology is so good. I love it when customers are aligned that way and everybody's doing their job correctly, because there's a lot of benefit that the good brokers can bring. And like other parts of the industry, the ones that aren't doing it right, they bring a bad name to a certain part of it. But overall, and as you know, I've just mentioned a whole list. You could give the top 10 brokerage companies in North America, and I'm connected with all of them and have great respect for them, because the majority of them in that size category are doing a very nice job.
You're very good at this, even taking the shots fired. Like Cody Adler, who's a flatbed broker out of Texas. I've known him almost my whole career. He says, damn, that was fire. Good point about relying on brokers to sell your service properly. Never looked at it that way. I think this also links back to when shippers get frustrated with all the surprises on the back end with accessorials, relays, misclassifications. It's all about doing things right on the front end. And if you have a broker who doesn't know LTL too well, they cause a big mess for you. So totally makes sense. Rhonda, she's from Global Trans. Good to see you, Rhonda. You'd be proud of me because I'm working out like crazy lately. She says, Yellow everywhere. Very timely discussion as we merge with Worldwide Active in this space. I'm a big,
I love the leadership at Global Trans and Worldwide. I've had a lot of experience with both. I think that's a really good fit. When Mike Grayson explained to me how that was going to be set up, I thought it made a ton of sense. And so shout out to both those organizations. They're going to be a powerhouse.
There are so many great questions in here, but we only have a couple minutes left. There was one by Andrew, which, by the way, y'all, every time, you guys know, Andrew sits on the sidelines, feeds me questions, but he refuses to come on the show. Andrew Teal, where was your question about suboptimal freight? I wanted to know the answer to this only because it's so clever. Any desire to accept suboptimal freight as super premium prices, given the current market dynamics and available volume of such freight? And Darren, if you know like an example of suboptimal freight, that's a mouthful. Could you please give us lay people an example?
Yeah.
You know?
So any of the LTL employees on here, they're going to call that alligator freight. So that's what we call it. It's alligator freight. What it does is in the LTL industry, you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You're bringing all these shipments into your facilities. You're consolidating them. You're building loads. You don't want to damage any of them. You want to get them out timely. And when you put alligator freight into the system, what's an alligator look like? Well, he's got a very long body and a narrow torso. And if you put him inside of a trailer, it's very difficult to take skids and other things and build around that. So when you've got suboptimal freight, you're right. You can, if you want to pay for the portion of the trailer and the space above that shipment, that's what an LTL carrier is going to expect you to do. And most customers will not identify with that and don't appreciate it. But when an LTL carrier can't stack upon it safely, productively, and move that shipment without damaging other customers' freight, then that suboptimal freight has trouble finding a home. You can think of flagpoles and all kinds of different infrastructure items that can really be oblong, odd-shaped, difficult to handle, dangerous for our employees to handle. City pickup and delivery drivers, this stuff moves around in their trailers. It can weigh several thousand pounds. It can endanger an employee. You've got to do all these things to make that work. But Andrew's right on the idea that there's a price for everything. And if that shipper is focused on being able to load it safely, put it in packaging that will protect it, allow us to protect other freight, and then certainly willing to pay for the space that it takes up rather than buying a whole truckload that they don't want to do, then typically we can find solutions for that. But I'll tell you, in markets like this, where it's so tight and so competitive, and LTL carriers networks are so full, it takes a lot of communication and planning to place suboptimal freight, because that's the last shipment that anybody really wants in a market like this.
Last question for you. That was really fun question, by the way. Good one, Andrew. Chandler, once again, throwing you some great questions. What is Yellow investing in that is not LTL?
Yeah, so proud you asked that one. It's called Henry Logistics. So we have our own brokerage company. Henry is growing dramatically. We don't report out separately on it, but we have talked about the double-digit growth. Everyone's seen our purchase transportation line that's associated with Henry. And Henry Logistics, they do residential truckload project work, but also they've got access to the second largest LTL carrier out there. So that makes them a very powerful piece in the logistics space. I do take their calls when they call me.
I was just about to ask that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason Bergman, our chief commercial officer, is president of that organization. One of your prior guests, Justin Hall, when he was with us.
I love Justin.
Yeah, Justin, when Jay Hall was my chief commercial officer, he helped us get that going, set it up. It started in 2019. It's been a terrific success. We've done this before. We built a $500 million brokerage before and sold it in tough times. So it's just a natural extension of LTL and what we do. But also it allows us, when you talk about suboptimal freight, residential, certain things that's just not conducive to LTL, Henry Logistics is a natural for that. And then keep in mind, we have a national sales force, and all LTL carriers, we have more direct sales representation than almost anyone in transportation logistics space. And when you add a logistics or brokerage to that, it allows that sales force just another arrow in their quiver and their sales toolbox.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thanks for letting me bring that up. It's been a terrific piece for us, and it's growing double digits at a rapid clip. So it'll be material and something I have to start reporting out on publicly very soon.
Well, we have learned so much from you, and you've handled well being in the hot seat for a few of those questions. You can definitely tell that you know this industry so well. It's been an honor having you on the show. Thank you very, very much. And for those of you out there that are creating more knowledge, or you want me to bring on some new tech companies and we can dive into their tech, I don't know, email me and let me know who you think else should be on the show, because we love people like Darren who can teach us and who just have so much great substantive knowledge. So that is it for today. You guys have a great weekend, and I hope y'all get really, really drunk tonight. Don't drive. And you get really hungover, and then you'll feel bad for me because I was hungover today. So there. Misery loves company.
Thank you.
Happy